What's up, everyone? John Mediana here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Branding Beyond Business. I got a chance to sit down with my brother from another mother, Dr. Justin Moseley, aka the Mindset Doctor, and he chatted with me about a few things. One of them was his near-death experience.
So I had a near-death accident back in 2018.
Yeah.
That's really what shifted gears for me. It's like, man, I'm playing way too small.
He also dropped knowledge about building your personal brand.
You could talk about mindset and personal branding all day, but it just doesn't actually resonate or make sense if it's not actually practical.
I stepped back and I was like, what can I do that brings me joy that can help other people?
And Dr. Justin also talked about his faith upbringing and ultimately how that helped him get in the fight for his life.
I did grow up at church some, but then my parents kind of stopped going to church. My dad was hurt by the church in the past, so we kind of strayed away, but they did put me in a Christian school. So I went to a private school, so it's still a big part of my life.
Before we dive into this episode, I did want to mention that we just launched our brand new podcast studio in Gallatin, Tennessee. So if you are looking to level up your video podcast, launch your YouTube channel, get more eyeballs, take your brand to the next galaxy and beyond, you're gonna want to get more information about how you could use our studio turnkey. We provide everything. You just got to show up and we'll do everything for you, done for you. Go check it out. I'll put the link in the description below. It's executivebrandgrowth.com/studio. Go check that out and take your podcast to that next level for sure. So let's dive into this exciting episode. Welcome to Branding Beyond Business. I'm your host, John Mediana. Let's get it.
There is a pillar in the business called the personal brand that really drives the competitive differentiation of any company.
For sure, yeah. Most businesses think they want to compete on price. Be the lowest price or have the most Google reviews, whatever it is. But they don't think about their own personal brand, their story.
Yeah.
And then there is a study, nationwide study done that said 74% of people are more likely to do business with you if you have a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a chiropractor by trade, and the top profession that people wanted to have a personal brand was their doctor. They wanted to know, like, who am I going to see? Do they get to know, like, and trust you before they go see you? So it's very important in my profession, but in any business.
Yeah.
Like, nowadays, your online persona is a digitization of your reputation.
Yeah.
We know how important reputation is in the community, face to face with people.
Yeah.
But your brand, what is online, is your personality, is your reputation. So it's got to speak for you.
That's huge, man. I love that. And there's so much to unpack there. But if you're just tuning in, what's up, everyone? I'm John Mediana, and I have a special, amazing, not only guest on the show, but he's a good friend of mine, Dr. Justin Moseley. And if you don't know Dr. Justin, he is the Mindset Doctor. He's also been on TED Talk, and that's exciting. We'll touch a little bit about that, but I really wanted to take this time with him because his time is so valuable. And I do want to dive super deep in the beyond section of business, which I consider the most important section, which is the personal brands, right? And building that persona and that personal brand and why that's so important. A lot of people today, I feel like personal branding is such a buzzword. Like, it's such a buzzword salad. They talk about personal brands and blah, 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 and like marketing. And it's kind of falls under the whole, like, oh yeah, you need SEO and marketing and all these like agency jargon. But I would love to hear from your perspective through your lens. What does a personal brand actually mean? And is it really worth something today to develop a personal brand?
Yeah, because you're right. Most people think it's SEO and websites and marketing, and it's your colors and the color schemes, which all that's important. You're a creative dude. You can make that look really good.
Yeah.
But it's deeper than that. It's your story.
Wow.
Like, what is your uniqueness?
Yeah.
Larry Wingett's this OG marketer, and he talks about find your uniqueness and exploit it in the benefit of others, the service of others. So if you can find your uniqueness and learn how to have your message tied to your business, people buy into that. And what's really cool you can do with your personal brand is you get into the head of your customer and you find out what they're thinking. What problem do you solve for them?
Yeah.
And you start speaking the language when you're putting out content. They're thinking, man, he's telling my story.
Yeah.
Like, he gets me. He understands me. How can I do business with him?
Yeah.
He solves my problem. What's the next step? It makes it a lot easier for them to do business with you when they understand who you are and what your story is.
That's so good. So you've had massive success these past couple of years, even with your own chiropractic practice, right? 7-figure business, all that stuff. What's the difference? I think a lot of people are really confused. Not confused. Maybe they just don't know how to define where the line is between your business brand and your personal brand. Doesn't it all mesh? Does it even matter? Like, some people just want to focus on brand marketing for their business and like getting more traffic, more sales, more, clients in their business. And like a lot of people just like to shut the personal brand side off. It says, that doesn't really matter. It's just a trend. It's a buzzword. It doesn't really work.
Yeah. And they say, I have a business brand. Do I need a personal brand?
Right.
I think your personal brand is the most important, and it should be tied directly to your business. And a perfect example is what I saw in my own business, because I started a personal brand just based off of mindset, personal development, things that I was passionate about.
Yeah.
And when I started building that personal brand, my clinic started taking off. Nothing to do with my clinic.
Yeah.
Then I started tying it together, because then people saw me in the community. They started seeing me as a thought leader. They started seeing my credibility and authority. And then they realized, oh, it's tied to this clinic too. They wanted to come support me because they saw what I did. And that credibility piece, the authority piece is there. And then it was a completely separate brand for my business, but then I tied it back in. And once I did that, it's like people are like, man, that's the place I want to go support.
Hey, if you're just joining in on Branding Beyond Business, we talk about everything that goes beyond business. That's personal branding, that's editing, that's techniques, that's all the things that you don't normally get when you're talking about business or building a business or brand. So if you want to connect with me, go to brandingbeyondbusiness.com, join the free newsletter. I'm starting to send out weekly newsletters, one that you don't want to hit the trash button on. It's designed to help you build your brand beyond business and grow your impact. So check it out, brandingbeyondbusiness.com.
No, that's awesome, man. I know that a lot of people that are actually listening to this maybe might be struggling with, that piece of like, well, do I brand my business? And I spent so much money on this. Now you're telling me I got to launch a personal brand. Like, well, what's that entail? Like, how do I, like, where do I even start with your personal brand? And it's so important because, yes, I think people can agree with you, right? How like reputation, rapport, all these things actually matter. Especially if you're like serving a local community and you're really trying to just like, you have a service that you have that's based around the community. It's really important to show face and build rapport. But if someone was like, all right, I get it, man. Like, I know I've been needing to build my personal brand and I've been hearing that over and over. I might've heard it from a lot of influencers that I follow, maybe Gary Vaynerchuk or Rory Vaden or someone that they follow. Like, but for you personally, what has been those things that you're able to apply and execute on a personal brand? Like, how do you tangibly grasp that? And where do you even start with that?
Yeah. I think at first it's getting clear, like, who do you want to serve? Like, who can I help? How do I want to help them? And really just starting, one of the things I started with is I just started interviewing people. Like, this is a great way to do this. Like, relationships are rocket ships. You connect with other people in the community. And so for me, I'll make it real. So I had a near-death accident back in 2018.
Yeah.
And that's really what shifted gears for me. It's like, man, I'm playing way too small. Like, we have a great business. We're helping people. We're making a difference. But I know I'm called to help people at such a bigger scale.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, man, I want to put out content. Mindset, personal development, leadership, sales, business, all the stuff that I was passionate about.
Yeah.
I wanted to give that to other people. So I was like, I don't know if you ever felt like this. When I first put myself out there, I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to listen.
Yeah. 0 people are listening to me right now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
But I started a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And 1,000 people showed up in the first month. So I was like, okay.
That's insane.
People are listening. So what I did, I just showed up and I interviewed someone every single week. And that was the one thing I did. To show up each week, I'm going to have an expert interview.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up and they're going to provide value.
Yeah.
And what it did, what's cool about your personal brand, it's all a persona anyways. It's just a perception of what people see.
Yeah.
But even if people didn't listen to the entire interview I did with somebody, they just, in their minds, they saw, hey, he's interviewing someone. In their mind, they said, oh, he is somebody. His credibility, his authority is raised in their mind.
The value perception.
Yeah, because of
part.
that.
Yeah. So you had said something, and I don't want to skip over it, is the fact that you started a Facebook group that gained 1,000 followers, and your one task every week was to interview an expert in their field.
Yeah.
And a lot of people maybe might want to start their podcasts, might want to start a group. They know that they're called to do more and become more and really lean into the way that God's designed them. But they might be tripping up on this idea of maybe overthinking, or, you know, the whole analysis paralysis of like, I want to have great experts on the show. How do I do that? Like, what was your formula? Obviously, you had mentioned that you were like, my goal was literally to have a conversation with an expert every week. But what was that process like? Like, can we unpack that a little bit?
Because I think it would be great for everyone, because a lot of people, they struggle with the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Like, who am I to interview someone?
Right.
Who's going to listen to me?
Why would they come on my show?
Yeah, why would they come on my show? All those things, we all deal with that. But the reality is looking at it, like, you are a step ahead of someone else. That's who you're really talking to. The people that Rory Vaden has the saying, you are perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were. Mm-hmm. So all the stuff that you've gone through, the lessons you've learned, you can use those to help people to come along the way. So you can actually speak life into other people.
Yeah.
So one, you're not having to say, I'm a guru, I'm an expert in all these things. It's no, I'm just showing up authentically. This is who I am. One of the things I liked about interviewing people is I get to ask genuine questions that I want to know. It was like free mentors.
Oh, yes.
Like, you want business advice? Interview some successful business people.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier than you think. Like, people want to share their message.
Yeah.
So they want to get on podcasts, but they won't get on your podcast unless you start putting yourself out there.
That's right.
And start showing them like, hey, I am building a personal brand. I am an authority myself. I do interview experts. I would love to have you on the show. And yeah, so many people are willing. That's there's a lot of scarcity mindset at first, but with the more successful people get, the more willing they are to help other people. Yeah. So they're open with their time, their energy to give interviews. And it just takes a couple of those interviews, and then you leverage that and say, hey, I had these people on the show. Would love to have you on. They're like, oh, yeah. You know John? Yeah. You were John. Yeah, John on the show. I love John. I'd be on your show for sure.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people just are afraid to start, maybe because they're afraid of, I don't know, failing. Or sometimes I figured out some people are afraid of success.
Yes.
Like, they're afraid that what happens when they become, and I think it's in their heads too. It's funny, like, you know, that we're talking about this. It's like, what happens if I become like, go viral overnight, and then like they won't stop bugging me and blah, blah, blah. Like, I know some people that are legit, like, I don't want that.
Right. Yeah. And it's all of that will stop you if you let it.
Yeah.
And we get in our heads and we create these stories. Like, what if no one listens? Mm-hmm. What if I waste all this time and energy? Or the opposite. What if it blows up and people want to call me and get on phone calls? I don't have enough time in the day to serve all these people.
Right.
They're all just stories we create. And Mark Twain has a quote, I lived a life of many troubles. Most of them never happened.
Yes.
And that's all the stuff in our head,
Yeah.
whether it's things that will go wrong or things that will go right, that'll be a problem. Yeah. Just stop with the stories and just focus on the serving people.
That's really good.
Fear disappears when the mission to serve is clear. So when you get clear about, I'm just showing up to serve, and that's what you do. The side effect is more business, more money coming in, all those things. But if you truly just have the heart to serve people and just show up, and man, that's really what built multiple businesses. My personal brand was off two things. One, Jesus didn't come to be served. He came to serve.
Amen.
And then Zig Ziglar quote, you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Come on.
So it's just showing up and saying, how can I serve people today? And when you show up with a servant's heart, man, you're blessed in so many other ways you can't even imagine.
So I got a question for you. From that perspective, like, your mindset now, like, you have this incredible, and this is why we're friends too, because I love surrounding myself with not just positive people, but like Jesus loving people that are creating impact, influence in their community, that have a meaningful message, that are literally paying it forward and serving others. But was it always like that for you? How did you get to this mindset? Because a lot of people, if they were like the moments of your life that you could look back on, the overcoming of challenges, there are some moments where people just stopped there. Right. So, I mean, we all were there. I mean, if you look back at 5 years ago, 10 years ago, who you were, what mentality you had, what was the journey or process of really getting to the place that you're at now? Because well, the person I know as you are now wasn't the same person 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what did you have to overcome? Like, what were some of those challenges, you know, for those that do want to pursue and feel like they have a calling to lead others, to create impact, to do something great, you know, with their personal brand and their business. And they're just maybe feeling like they're hitting a wall. Maybe they're stuck and they're just like, I don't know what else to do. Like, how do I overcome this?
No, it's perfect timing too, because I actually got a big keynote at an event coming up at the end of the month. And I was thinking about this journey, and I go back to 2006. Like, I'm in my first year of grad school, like dreaming of being successful. Like, one day I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna start my practice, I'm gonna be successful. But I struggled with self-esteem, lack of confidence. Like, a lot of things were going on. I actually grew up with a tremendous fear of public speaking.
Wow.
And
I would have never guessed it, man. The way you command a stage, especially like in your talks and on stages, it's like, I felt like you were born to do this.
Well, and I appreciate that. And that's part of my mission now, is I want to speak life into people that think like I could never do that. Because that's where I was. Like, even in undergrad, I took a speech class.
Yeah.
And I almost failed the speech class because I had a panic attack during the speech. Like, my hands started shaking. Like, my whole body just went numb. There was this heat that came over me. I kind of blacked out a little bit. Don't even know what I said. I remember it was over, and I walked back to my seat. My roommate at the time, like, looked at me like this sheer terror on his face. Like, what just happened? Are you okay? But
you're like, nailed it.
Yeah. In that moment, like, I created the story. You can never speak in public. This is not for you. You should never do that.
Wow.
And speaking of, like you said, that's where people mostly stop.
Yes.
They just accept that. Like,
they accept it. They embrace it. They're like, all right, I'm a failure.
This isn't for you. And it happened to me. Like, I believed that story for way too long.
Wow.
But then I kept going back to the mission is bigger than me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to serve. And and it's surrounding yourself with the right people. And a lot of mentors you could be having books and podcasts and YouTube videos. So I started studying Tony Robbins and just watched how he commanded the stage and how he could influence all these people in an audience and have 5,000 people in the room and just get them going. So I was like, man, what if I could do that?
Yeah.
Not, I can't do that. Just asking a different question. What if I could? What do I need to do? So I started, one of the principles I learned from him is modeling. Started modeling. What does he do with his body? How does he use his energy?
Body language.
Yeah. How do you use affirmations, mental rehearsal to really get yourself in the moment? And for me, it was like making it bigger than myself. And I was like, if I don't overcome this, what do people miss out? So for you listening, what are people in the world missing out if you don't go for it? If you don't build your personal brand?
That should be the bigger fear in your life, is not the fear of accomplishing or even stepping out and doing something. The fear of what you would have missed out on if you didn't overcome that challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And that's where it was like, I'm making it about me. So it's about me and my insecurities and how I don't think I'm any good at this versus who can I impact? Even if it's one person in this entire audience, I have the ability to change their life.
Yeah.
So I started working on it. And it was work to study different speakers and work on speaking myself and affirming and overcoming the limiting beliefs that I had. But I was able to overcome that. And then fast forward to 2018, I had a near-death accident.
Yeah.
And that was a real wake-up call for me. And one of the lessons I learned from that, like, I look back and I was like, what if it would have ended in that moment? And because I got trapped underwater, wedged between two rocks in a whitewater rafting accident and blacked out.
We'll put the link in his TED Talk in the description on this podcast.
I give the story in my TED Talk. So I went unconscious and I hear a voice that said, wake up. And thankfully I did. I came back to consciousness and I was trapped underwater. I tried to push free. I didn't budge. And I kept pushing and pushing. Thankfully, my adrenaline kicked in and I pushed hard enough. I broke one of the buckles of my life jacket, floated to the top, got washed down the river, and man, I was rocked. And at that point, we all asked the question, like, why am I here?
Yeah.
But I asked a different question. Like, why am I still here?
Yeah.
Because it could have been different in that moment.
Yes.
What if I didn't hear wake up? What if I wasn't strong enough to break free?
It's a lot of questions.
Yeah. And it's the thing for you listening, you don't need a near-death accident. You don't need a rock bottom moment. A lot of people wait for that in order to change.
Yeah.
But you can ask yourself that question. Why am I still here today?
Yeah.
Because life is a gift. Today wasn't guaranteed. You woke up today for a reason. So you got air in your lungs. Your heart is beating. You're here for a reason. Why are you still here?
Yeah.
You can answer that it's bigger than just going through the motions of life.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that I learned from that was, man, I asked myself, if it would have ended in that moment, is this the legacy I want to leave? And the answer was no.
Right.
And so I was like, I knew I was called to make a bigger impact.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize I could have done more. I could have become more. I could have helped more people. I could have made a bigger impact. So that still drives me to this day. It's like, I want to leave it all out on the field.
Yeah.
I don't know when that day's coming where it is the end, but I want to be able to say at the end, this is the legacy I want to leave.
That's so great, bro. That leads me to my next question. And this is the part where I want to go a little bit deeper. So you had mentioned, a little bit about faith and like about the voice that you heard to say, get up, wake up pretty much. Like, where does that stem from? Did you grow up in church?
Yeah, so grew up, and thankfully I did grow up in church some, but then my parents kind of stopped going to church. My dad was hurt by the church in the past, so we kind of strayed away, but they did put me in a Christian school. So I went to a private school, so it's still a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And I thank God for that to this day, because it was being there that I really developed this heart of service. And I even remember my senior year of high school was up on the baseball field. I told you the story before. I had a friend of ours, our senior year, he died of cancer. And I remember he was part of the baseball team. We went on the baseball field, and I remember just making a promise. I was like, one day I'm going to come back here and give back, because I've been so blessed to be here, and just God's been so good to me. I want to come back and give back. And that is why we came and brought our practice back here. We opened the practice here because it's like, man, I want to give back to this community. I want to change lives and make a difference here. So it started early on for me.
Wow.
It's really that heart to serve people, just like Jesus serves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so unique, and in a way, because I know a lot of people have a church background, but some have fallen from the faith. And a lot of people are like, dude, I just don't know what my purpose is anymore. I just don't know, and a lot of them know that, with their background, they just feel like because of church, like because of their story, it's impacted their life. But sometimes they feel like when you go through life and the challenges kind of tears you kind of apart, really, whether it's going through some church hurt or some people that you really looked up to that has hurt you. Have you had anything like that in your life where you felt like, man, church, we're all made of people. Like every church is made of people and people make mistakes and stuff. But like for you, how did you stick it out and actually strengthen your faith? Because I'm sure you've run into those things in the past.
There was, even in my early 20s, man, I got married young and I went through a divorce.
Wow.
And dude, that as a Christian, like that, I felt so much shame, so much guilt around that. And like I tried to fight it. I was like, no, Christians can't get divorced.
Yeah,
and right. Like, well, it came to the point where there's nothing we could do about it. It ended up happening. So I dealt with, for a long time, shame, guilt. I didn't even want to go to family reunions. I felt like I was just worthless.
Wow.
And really it was reconciled with God that he still loves me. No matter what I've gone through, he still loves me.
Yeah.
And he's not going to leave me nor forsake me. So I need to just turn back to him. Just give it all up. All the shame, the guilt, all the stuff that I was carrying wasn't him shaming me and making me feel guilty. I was doing it to myself. Yeah. So I think a lot of us, we do that. We put the shame, we sin, we do it. We all fall short of grace. Right. But we make ourselves feel so much more guilty instead of just turning to him.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Looking for his guidance, his grace, his wisdom to help us through.
Yeah. I want to speak to that story because I know there's a lot of people, even in my life right now, they are in that season. Maybe some of them went through a recent divorce, separation. Maybe some of them have done some things that they really regret and are carrying that shame. And I love what you said, because it does say that in Romans 8, like, there's no condemnation. Like God will never, ever forsake us, never leave us. His love is always after us. But it's easy to hear that and be like, I know it's not God's fault, but man, my shame, my guilt, like how can a good, gracious, loving God continue to love and use a guy like me, knowing that you were designed for greatness, and you knew that at a very young age. You're like, I know I want to make an impact in the world, but then life happens, and like, how do you reconcile or go through that knowing like God's going to forgive me no matter what? Like he's a gracious God, but how do I forgive myself?
Yeah, I think it's looking at all throughout the Bible, from David to everyone messed up.
Yeah.
And they all had their faults, they all had their shortcomings, but God still used them to do great things. And I mean, even the story of the prodigal son, going out, squandering his wealth, doing all the things that he did, still came back and the Father loved him. Like, how much more does our Father in heaven love us? We just need to turn and run back to him. I think a lot of times we hide. We stay the prodigal son. We're going to stay away for far too long. And we turn to run back to him, and he's waiting there with open arms.
Yeah, that's so good. And you know what? Like, I've had stuff like that happen in my life, you know? I was having my wife on the podcast, and we had talked about when we were, before we were dating, I actually used to be engaged to someone else.
Yeah.
Right. And like, and then broke that off. Thank God. She was, you know, I hope she's doing great now, but she was a crazy, like, you know what I mean? God protected me. Yeah, but I still felt like, man, like, you know, like I was engaged to someone else's wife, like, you know, and like feeling that guilt and going into my marriage, feeling like, you know, like I had to like well, my wife, luckily we walked a lot of life together. So she was there when those things happened, but still feeling like, God, can you use a guy like me, knowing that full well he could. But what was the thing that helped you step into that greatness, saying, you know what? I know God forgave me. I forgive myself. I know my future is greater than my past. Thank God. Praise God. And how do you, on a daily practice, activate that thing? Because it's not just positive thinking. Like, don't get me wrong. Positive thinking is great, but I don't believe it has the power to, you know, change or transform you from death to life. I believe it might transform your mindset.
For sure.
But for you, what really is the thing that drives that, you know, that why in your life, knowing that, man, I could have been stuck here, but this is why I'm pursuing. This is actually what makes my future bigger than my past.
Right. Yeah.
I think you said it earlier too.
For unbelievers, the past does not equal the future. That's an affirmation I give to people all the time, because they get stuck in a loop of, I always have this happen to me. I always mess up in this way. I always.
Yeah.
The past does not equal the future. It can if you let it. But today you can make a decision to change everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I remember driving to Chattanooga, going up on Lookout Mountain, and there was a place there that I just sat there and was just praying. And I remember telling God, it was like, I'm going to change things around.
Wow.
Like, I want to become the best version of me.
Wow.
So I can be a great husband. I'm going to be a great friend. I'm going to be all the things that I know that I can be.
Yeah.
And I remember just kind of having a devotional up there and like telling God that that's what I wanted to focus on.
Yeah.
And what you focus on expands. When you're looking to do good, when you're looking to seek God, you can hear God. If you're not praying to God and listening for answers, you're not going to get them.
Right.
So you've got to just start putting in the time.
Yeah.
And I think people, the hard thing is you don't pray a prayer and God just doesn't answer you right there. So it's like,
I wish that's the way.
We all wish that was the easy way, but no, you've got to put in the work. And for me, I went all in. It went back to one of your earlier questions. When I was in grad school, I asked a mentor, what can I do to be successful when I graduate? I thought he's going to give me some sage business advice, and you should go here and open a business here and invest in people and invest in yourself or whatever. But give me the best advice ever. He said, if you want to be successful, work on yourself. That was it. And I took that and I ran with it. I started reading books like Think and Grow Rich, Tony Robbins stuff, Jim Rohn, Jack Canfield, all the greats. But I started reading 100 books a year because I didn't want to just learn. It was personal development, marketing, sales, business, 2 books leadership. Yeah, 2 books a week. And it was all the things because I didn't want to learn about them. I wanted those concepts to be a part of me.
Yeah.
I wanted to master mindset.
Yeah.
Personal development, leadership, sales, business. Like, I wanted to know it inside and out. So I went all in.
That's great.
And I think it's the same thing with our personal relationships, with God, with our family, with all of our relationships. We need to go all in.
Yep.
And I think too many people are dabbling instead of going all in.
That's so good, man. And I remember that saying a long time ago. I learned I think it was in 2008. I heard a saying that said, show me the 5 books you're reading and I'll tell you what your year will look like.
Yep.
Right?
That's Jim Rohn says a version of that. He's also one that coined, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Yep. And you are the product of the 5 friends you spend the most time with. So it's like, it's all real.
Yeah.
Because we are a product of our environment. The environment could be what we're watching on YouTube, it could be what we're reading, it could be what we're watching on TV, it could be the people we're surrounding ourselves with. But that's one of the best things you can do is be intentional with where you spend your time and who you spend your time with.
So good.
Surrounding yourself with the right people is one of the best things you can do.
I got 2 more questions for you, and then I want to give an opportunity for the audience to follow you wherever you're at. Number 1 is when everyone knows that the first step is changing your mindset. And a lot of people actually do well with that. They're like, that's my first step. I know I got to change my mindset, John. You know, like Justin, I got to change my mindset. You recommended all these books. I know that's the first step. What is the second step practically? Like, because a lot of people, I think, they don't struggle with the first step because they love books. They'll listen to podcasts all day. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think the next step is very crucial, because if they don't move to that next step, they're going to be stuck in the first step, and they're just going to be a obese mindset kind of person, right?
Right, yeah. So the next step would be figuring out, ask yourself this question: what do I want? When I ask people what they want, most people can't tell you what they want.
It's true.
They can tell you all the things they don't want. I don't want to have to work this much. I don't want to have this. I don't want the stress. I don't want.
I want a 4-hour work week.
I want a 4-hour work week, yes. But what do you really want?
Right.
And when you can answer that, and then answer this one: who do I need to become in order to achieve that?
Yeah.
And work every single day to become the version of yourself that can achieve what you truly want.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny because I listen to that, man, and I'm like, you're right, bro. Like the daily practice, right? And I think the thing, especially like maybe there's, I'm in a bunch of like Facebook groups. One of them's like this dad's Facebook group. Are you in that one?
No.
Dude, don't jump in it if you want to be depressed. Like it's just like dads venting like, wife's cheating on me again. Like, what do I do, fellas? I need some therapy. Like, you know, like, but I feel like the things that we ought to do, we do not do, right? Paul writes this, you know, in a lot of the New Testament. The things I do, I don't end up doing. The things I don't want to do, I end up doing. And it's like this vicious cycle, you know. And the thing is, like, sometimes we want that magic bullet, you know, that pill that just takes all the pain away and gets us to the goal and greatness. And what I love about what you had said is that it is a daily mindset that you are setting, that daily practice of like, this is what I want to become, and this is what I need to become to achieve that. It's not the sexiest thing you could tell somebody, especially a guy that's just like, man, I've been kind of taking the same lap over and over again. You know, there's some guys living the same year for the past 12 years.
Right. And they will continue to until they decide, I'm going to do something different. And you got to realize you're not alone when you're feeling like, okay, let's go in the gym's an easy one. People are like, I don't want to go to the gym. I hate working out. You know what? I do too. Every single time.
Dude, look at these.
Every single time I go to the gym, I'm like, I hate this. It sucks. But once I get in the gym, I go all out.
Yeah.
And I never regret actually going and getting it
no
done.
one regrets it.
Yeah.
No one ever regrets.
To drive there, even my mind's talking about, you're tired. Why don't you turn around? Yeah. Your wife's at home. Go spend time with her. Whatever it is.
Dude, just this morning, bro, my alarm set 4:30, and I literally hit snooze, and I was like, do I have to, like, you know, do I have to? I like literally had to wake myself, tell myself that this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is what you're called to do. It starts here. Half of the battle is getting your butt up.
Yeah.
And get in the car, make your, you know, little pre-workout drink. I set the night before, I put my pre-workout on the counter, and I'm like setting up my next day for success.
For sure, yeah.
Right?
If not, then it's another thing you have to do that might stop you from actually taking action.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that's a normal thing. We all struggle with that. Thankfully, you had enough motivation to get yourself going.
Yeah.
But for those of you who struggle with it, the best thing to do is get an accountability partner. Because if we all could keep ourselves accountable, we would hit all of our goals.
Yeah.
But we stay accountable to others more than we do ourselves.
Yes.
Because there's probably days too where the alarm goes off at 4:30 where it's like, you know what? I let myself talk myself out of actually doing it. But if I had a workout partner who was waiting on me at the gym, I'm not going to let him down.
Right.
So I'm going to actually get out of bed, even though I don't want to. It's cold out of the covers, whatever the excuse is. I'm not going to let that other person down.
Right.
So use that in any area of your life. There's something you want to stay accountable to, get someone else to hold you accountable, because you're more likely to stay accountable to someone else than you are to yourself.
That's right.
Hey, if you love the video, I got all the links to all the gear and everything in the description below. So if you want to purchase the gear or use the gear that I've used in this video, it's all under there. There's no affiliate links, obviously, because I'm not affiliated, but I just wanted to share those links with you so that you could purchase the same gear that I've used throughout this video so you can get the same quality. And if you want more videos like this, if you want me to share with you how to use the gear or make tutorials, please drop a comment, let me know so that I know exactly where to take this channel and how to bring value to your life and beyond.
And which is why I love our friendship, because like I feel like we hold each other accountable. You know what I mean? Especially like when we're busy dudes, we're entrepreneurs, right? Like we're doing things in the world. But when I shoot you a text, I'm like, hey bro, man, you're crushing it. Or like when I see you post online, I'm celebrating when my bros are just crushing it. I'm seeing them produce content, they're building their personal brand. And my last question for you before we go into the last part of this is, when you're thinking about you're building or establishing your personal brand, the technical side of it, because like you could talk about mindset and personal branding all day, but it just doesn't actually resonate or make sense if it's not actually practical. Right. So for you, did you have to make an investment, or what was the thing for you to take the next step of saying, I am building, like, you don't just wake up and you're like, I'm building a personal brand. I'm building a personal brand. Right. Like for you, what did you have to do?
Yeah. So I looked to make it real. Like I stepped back and I was like, what could I do that brings me joy that could help other people? That's where I looked at, what am I passionate about? Maybe that's how, ask yourself that. What are you passionate about? And I looked at all that work that I did for years. The books that I read, the mentors, the mastermind groups that I was in, the coaching that I had gotten, all that led me to become the person I am today. Hey, I could take all that knowledge and give that to other people. So that's where it came from, is looking at all the stuff you've been through, the lessons that you've learned, all those things are part of your story. That's part of your personal brand. And as you start to put out, and I think that's where the more real you can be, the more authentic. Because there's a lot of people building personal brands and they just show up, here's the 3 steps to do this. And it's just very structured versus being real. Like you guys have watched him and his wife smoking a cigar out back, doing that kind of thing. That's real. And people love that because you get to see the behind the scenes. And I started realizing, because building my personal brand led to me doing coaching and different things. And I would ask people like, why did you want to work with me? And of course, I provide a service that helped them become better, but they all had a common thread that said, you have the life that I want to live. Like, you love your wife. You guys are always like going out on dates. You're traveling together. You're doing all those things. I let them see that side of my personal brand, not just here's mindset stuff, here's business stuff. Like here's the real stuff going on in life. And people resonate with that.
I love that. And like, I know like people, I know they're going to be asking, and I got to ask it because I know the audience is going to be asking, are you just using your iPhone to develop your personal brand? Or like, did you make an investment? Because when I watch your content, I'm just like, dang, studio's fire, bro. You got lights, you got all this stuff, like quality camera, that bokeh and that soft background. And like, you've invested even on the brand mindset, doctor. I see it. Your stuff is hella branded everywhere. Like, what made you do that? And what makes you feel like, man, like, what got you to that point? What did it just happen overnight where you're like, I'm investing into this? Or was it just like little tiny movements here and there, little chess pieces that you're putting together?
It's definitely the chess pieces, which I think you could probably tell over your career of, hey, if I tweak a light, tweak a microphone, tweak a camera. I just posted a story today. It was from 3 years ago from an interview I did. But it's still in the same studio in my house, but it's completely different lighting. But it was always, how do I level this up? And at first, back then, it was just like, I'm on Zoom calls all day. Whether it's podcast interviews, whatever it is, how can I show up different? So I invested in a camera, the Sony A6300. And I got people all on this Zoom call, and then they're like, man, how's your quality looks so good? Like, what is that? And then I'm watching YouTube videos. Like, how can you change the lighting?
Shout out Sean Cannell.
Sean Cannell. Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you do lighting? How do you do the audio? Like, how do you level up? And it's funny. it doesn't take much. Like, we got an awesome light here. If we didn't have that light, this video would be completely different. We have this light back here, completely different.
Yeah.
It's funny.
$35, by the way. I'll put a link below.
Yeah. So you can just kind of block that out.
Yeah.
It's like it just changes everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do that sitting in my room and I'll like turn certain lights off and I'm like, look how different that looks.
Right.
But I was like, in my mind, it's like, I want to level this up. So what YouTube video can I watch where people are like, here's my studio setup. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But having that level of care about your own personal brand sets you apart.
It blows my mind because literally we have access to this thing called YouTube today. And it literally has pretty much every answer to all the questions that you have. If you were going to build a personal brand, what equipment to purchase. I feel like there's like no excuse nowadays to create a successful business or brand because of the tools and resources that is available. And it doesn't really, I think the overthinking part is like, oh, it's going to be such a huge investment. I don't got thousands of dollars. I don't got a lot of, even time, like what do you have to say to those people that really are trying to get off the fence about, like, maybe there's something that keeping them stuck. Maybe it's equipment gear. Maybe it's like, oh, my stuff will never look as good as the doctor, or good as my, like, John stuff. And I was really trying to make a point to prove with the branding beyond business that you don't need a lot of expensive gear or equipment. Yeah. In fact, like, you don't need to have a typical podcast setup. We're at a cigar lounge, y'all. We're at the Smoky Cigar in Hendersonville. So big shout out to Rick and his whole team for allowing us to film here. This is actually really cool. But we're not in anywhere special, right?
It's a dark room.
It's a dark room. We got one camera.
Yep.
But I think content's really important. But for those that are on the fence about making that investment or even not even knowing where to begin, what would you tell them, to go check out?
Yeah. So, let's make it really easy. First off, just make a list of the things you want to do. Try to set the vision of, okay, I like John's got this colored light. He's got a camera. He's got lights. Make a list and then make the priorities on that list. But just start with one thing. But the very first thing that you can do, start with your phone. And I would get a mic because the sound makes a difference, especially these days. But just start recording yourself every single day, talking to the phone. Because what you'll do, if you do this for 30 days, you just show up to say something to your phone.
Come on.
Even if you're not going to post it at first, just show up. The repetition, all of a sudden you're going to be like, hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you start saying another thing. And it just starts to get so comfortable that you can start posting this stuff. And it's going to be actually really good stuff. And then it's just repetition of it, getting it out there. Again, I said I posted something today from 3 years ago. I didn't sit there and think, like, how many posts was I going to make and people I was going to interview. I just showed up and said, who can I serve today? Whether it was through a video on my phone, whether it was interviewing somebody, whatever it is, just show up, but start with your phone. Just talk to it, say something meaningful, and think about the person on the other side.
So good.
It's not you talking to your phone. Get one person in your head and talk to them through your phone and watch what happens.
That's so great and so practical too, man. So I appreciate it. Hey, if you got value from this episode with Dr. Justin, man, hit the like button, drop a comment. We'll be sure to tag all his links in the description below. And bro, where can we find you? How can we get involved? If we want to join or be in proximity with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so check out my Instagram, just at Dr. Justin Moseley, and then go to mindShiftLinks.com. I've got free resources, lots of great things. Link to my TED Talk is all right there.
That's awesome, man. And one last takeaway for everybody, if they're listening right now and they're trying to build their personal brand, what is your one big takeaway, whether it's something that transformed your life or something that someone said to you? What would you leave with everybody?
Because your personal brand is not about you. It's about the people that you serve. And your brand is the vehicle of your service. Okay. So you just get that heart of service and say, show up and ask yourself, how can I serve? And the answers will come. Pray about it, seek guidance. But the answer will come, how can I serve? And then build a brand upon that and change lives.
I'm going to have to start calling you Bishop Justin instead of the doctor.
Let's go.
But hey, y'all, go follow Dr. Justin. He's making incredible impact. He's going to be on stages. You'll see him. There's going to be tons of events that he's doing. And please connect with him. Find him online. Go follow him. And really let this man pour into your life for free. The content he puts out there is for free, y'all. I would pay bucos to get just his mindset and just to have that influence in my life. So go follow him and make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much. We'll see you in the next episode. Boom.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Branding Beyond Business. I really do appreciate you, and it really does help our channel if you subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, share it with someone that needs to hear this episode. But if you enjoy this episode, please, I'm not going to ask you to subscribe or do nothing. You can do that, but do yourself a favor and keep crushing it. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to continue to grow, learn, adapt, and build. Keep on keeping on, make content. It does not have to be perfect. You don't have to have the perfect setup or anything like that. Just keep crushing it today. And that is the promise that I want you to make for yourself. But if you did like this content, please subscribe. It does help the algorithm gods let them know that this is something that you want to tune into and this is something that you look forward to. It really also helps me to produce more content like this, get more people on the show, and also drop more nuggets for you to take your brand to the next level and beyond. So thanks again. I'll see you next week.